I'm so curious.
About what? Buenos dias. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Um, I was gonna say, come, comment ça va, because I'm in Canada.
Yeah. Comme ça va?
Um, so I'm curious because uh, I'd never seen you co-host for a whole day, right? And so like I've done that before, and it's the thing is, even though there's a lot of disruption and madness, there are like golden nuggets of interactions that keep me interested. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
How was it for you?
Yeah, it was like it was my experiment, I guess. It was the first time I did that and I was like cleaning and sorting through a bunch of stuff. So I was like, I might as well just do this. And and then yeah, and then just seeing how like people just like taking over.
Isn't it fascinating?
It's just like at some point, like there were some times where I was just like, not with the phone, and I'd set it down, and then I'd hear like the chaos.
Yes. I've fallen asleep to chaos and woke up and I hear, oh, they're still arguing? Okay, I'm going to go back to nap for another nap. Hey, Zach.
Oh my god, it was funny.
It's my
Hello,
birthday
Sam.
today, and all I asked for a birthday present is Melly to go and get all of the work she can get done and not be on Twitter at all.
Oh my god. I'm not going to be on Twitter at all tomorrow for sure. Today, it started. Good
Yeah,
morning.
but you're not going to be on Twitter tomorrow because you're probably going somewhere where you're not going to have service and you're not going to get any work done.
No, I'm gonna get work done.
This is like a weird birthday present, Zach. It's the most
Zach,
military
feliz
birthday present I've ever
cumpleaños
heard.
a ti. Feliz cumpleaños
All
a
right,
ti.
I'm driving out.
Feliz
I
cumpleaños
am
I'm driving
a
out to where
Zach.
India.
they're training, so I'll talk to you guys later.
Feliz cumpleaños.
Happy birthday, Zach.
Buenos días, José. ¿Cómo estás?
Hello, how are
Ah,
you?
ven, salude. Salude e invitemos más gente para que hablemos español. Oh, sí, he left.
I invited them up. Yeah, so tell me more about like did you try any tech? It's not easy. I find it's still not easy to rein in people who don't know when to take their turn. Did you find an effective strategy?
Yeah, just muting them.
Hi, baby, how are you?
Just muting them. Hello, Akash.
Yeah,
Uh,
baby.
what do you mean, baby? Who's your baby?
I am India.
All right. Good for you, India.
Slowly.
So, yeah.
So, yeah. So tell me more.
Oh,
besides
I don't
muting.
know. It
Yeah.
was really funny though, because it's like, I mean, I have I don't know what my voice does, how it's perceived out there, but like I get pretty emphatic when it's just like but these microphones, like the one that really gave me trouble was a friend, and like he just was wanting to fight, he just wanted to argue, he literally was just in for the fight, and I was like, fix your microphone is the problem, like if you would talk better into the microphone it'd be nicer to have you. But yeah, I don't know, yesterday was pretty interesting, and I had all, there was everybody, like I can't even, does a really good rundown, and I was gonna take notes, but like I I didn't because I was like doing shit. So I was like, all right, I kept changing the room's title, and it was just an interesting little experiment I had yesterday. It was 12 hours. 12 hours, 22 minutes, or 20, what is it? On the 2nd, in the 20, it was all tutus. I don't know if you saw me post that afterwards. It was an interesting day. Thanks, Sandra and Dan, for co-hosting.
Yeah, yesterday
It
was
was cool.
interesting.
Like, yeah, it was interesting. Like being up there alone. Like, I could do it for a little bit, but yeah, it was. I don't know.
Oh, you were amazing the whole time.
Yeah, it was funny.
You were great. Everyone loves your voice, and the fact you wanted 38 kids that kept the room going all day. So
I think the beginning of the room got lost very soon, and then it was just like let's see what happens here from here on out. I had my troll friends in here, like yeah, the Colombians. I had Fitz trying to like argue with some of the Spanish speakers. I'm like, dude, it's okay. They don't speak Spanish. There was somebody else that was so bothered by people speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
And I was like, get the fuck out.
And
Until
then the bilingual guy,
bilingual guy.
yeah, it's interesting because I was able to, I was working away in the background and I was able to pop in. And I find and whether this is true or not, when you point out the fact that there might be some people trying to peacock, they put down their feathers.
Oh my God. Okay, so when you said so the room, like I said, it started out as I was just chatting. And we were talking about relationships and stuff, and like what I wanted, or like but that was like very beginning when I was with my friends and close circle people, and then it became into like, I mean, at one point there was like 100 people in the room. When I had my friend. Because I have a friend, she's pretty famous in OnlyFans. And so when she came on is when the room just fucking kept growing. And a lot of those people stayed. But yeah, when you pointed out the whole dance, like the whole I'm like, for me, it's not for me. Obviously it's not for me. It's just a they're not dancing for me, and the display is not for me. It's just for each other, for the other men. Like that's the difference. When you pointed it out, you said, "Oh, everyone's dancing for Melly. Like the mating dance is for Melly," and it certainly is not. It's just guys. Just that's why I keep telling people, I'm like, just go fucking naked. Just be naked so you can see the dick. Like, just go and see the other dick, and that way you know who your opponent is. Apparently, because guys always want to like. I just had an image of all male animals like meeting each other and bucking heads and like dancing, picking. Yeah, this is the way it is.
That's
But
the
it's
way
like,
it feels,
well,
man.
I mean, yeah, Casey's like that all the time. I mean, that's one of the problems with him. But
He's there. Stop. Let's talk about something else.
good
But-
one.
I thought the
Yeah.
room yesterday went well. Although, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people who were kind of angry in there sometimes, but it's okay.
Yeah. So what did you see? Where was the anger? Where did the anger lie? Or what? How did it manifest? Like, what did?
Well, it was just like everyone talks over each other, and that one guy that was just like super loud on the mic.
Yeah.
And
He got angry. He was
Yeah.
angry. He this is where I think statistics are a psyop, because it's like this motherfucker, has no divorce in his family. Like, this guy is so like, he has the most loving, beautiful, huge family, because he's got a lot of sisters. There's not one single person divorced in his family, in his nuclear and extended. And here he is talking about like how women are coming for his shit, and like all the 10-15 years of him working his effort is going to
Yeah.
be taken away by this bitch that doesn't exist. That's
It's
never
not fair for
existed.
women to be taking my stuff. I've earned it.
See,
Exactly.
I wasn't even here. Sorry to interject. I wasn't even here for this conversation. You guys are what you're learning or recapping, but I can only imagine the discussions, whether it's in your guys' Twitter room or anything in general. But you got a bunch of monkeys up here, not me, but just in general, just get a bunch of fucking dudes. Like, have you guys ever seen that
I will
South
do
Park
some
episode?
shit for some bananas. I'm just saying.
Yeah, have you ever seen that South Park episode? It's a pretty old one when Bebe gets tits. And all the boys like freak out, and they're like,
yeah,
and they're like, yeah. Watch that episode. That's a Twitter space for you.
I drew a picture of what I imagined how Mel described the meeting of all mankind. So that's the logo I created for all, Twitter Spaces.
So that's bucking of heads, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That looks about right. I take it back, like
Let's see.
It's beautiful. I love that. You should mint that.
I got to get Peter to AI it. Yeah.
Just gonna ask, can you AI this? See what you actually get here.
Yeah, let's co-I it.
Stacks, welcome. Grookey, welcome. Casey, Sandra, Dan.
Hi.
Yeah, it was fun yesterday. We'll see what
There's
happens.
never a dull moment with Twitter Spaces. I'll tell you that much. You can go in this room with crazy people. You can go in this room with crazy people. This room might start out sane, but ends up crazy. Starts out crazy, ends up sane. I guess. I don't know. Different flavors. The spice of life. And you got people from different accents. It's hilarious. And you have people like from India, from Pakistan, from Africa, like all talking, yelling at each other. But at the end of the day, it's a bunch of dudes with their dicks, and they're all monkeys, right? We're better than this, fellas. We're better than this.
Can you imagine like the shit, like people that play with the shit? Like this is the other thing I imagine.
Yeah,
like,
pick up and throw it. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, all right, first I'm gonna size my dick, and then I didn't like what you said, so I'm gonna throw my shit.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like that one guy that was attacking me last night, the whole like, what the fuck's with your face? What the fuck's with the ass thing? After a while, I was just like, and then he was like, I got your IP address, and I
oh
don't know.
no, my IP address. No.
I know. And I was just like, when I was co-host, I had like get these fuckers down to listener and to hang out. You know what I mean? Because yeah, it was. And then I had to just like take a break. I was just like, I can't do any more spaces. To go listen to music. Go listen to a river.
Fitz kept trying to have me close the room. Fitz was like, all right, it's done, Melly. Like, this is chaos. Like, let's get, and I'm like, rein it in. Bring it in. Like,
yeah.
We're not shutting it down just yet. Let's see what happens.
I think guys that aren't like sure of themselves in terms of what they do are about 7,000 more times combative on Twitter Spaces. I don't know. It's just like one is they go from room to room and just like want to point out the problems with the room. Like, dude, that your ceiling's not colored, not painted the same as the walls or some shit like that. It's always like just like nitpick theater. All right, so you have
amateur hour, bro.
Yeah, totally. It just drives me absolutely insane.
Like, your right titty's bigger than the left. Like, really? You like them anyway.
No! You're not perfect. Ah!
What?
I wish we.
That's diversity.
True. I just think that we should have two.
Hey, don't bring in that positive spin in here. We're bitching right now, right?
But I think it would be cool if you could like flush somebody out of one room and then they go back to like purgatory, and that's another room where they have to like.
Well, did you hear about Trav? Trav, Trav from Down Under?
Yeah.
Trady Trav? Yo, that guy had this thing where when things started getting rowdy, He said, "You know what we're gonna do," and he's using that fucking deep ass Australian accent. You know what I'm talking about? Like those guys have a
Yeah.
really crazy ass voice too. Like the quality and the timbre of their voice, incredible. They're not even using a mic. So, anyways, um, so you have this rowdy crowd, and he says, "All right, we're gonna set up some rules, and we're gonna start putting up our hand, right? And if you're unable to put up your hand, there's going to be a 3-strike rule, and a third strike, we're going to have to drop you down to listener for 10 to 15 minutes." And so people actually start playing the game, right? And it's a game because there's now a constraint, right? In Mario, you can only move right, you can't move left in the beginning. So people start following, and then very quickly they start breaking the rules and striking out because they get excited and emotional about the topic. And who blames them, right? But they can't help themselves. And I see Casey's hand up, so this is good. And so he calls it a relay race, where you pass the relay from hand to hand, like I'm about to pass to Casey.
It was awesome too how he kept the conversation on topic, and then at the same time, for the people that had been kicked down to listener, he would encourage them to try again. So it was a very encouraging, like, "Oh, you broke the rules. I'm sorry. You got to go down to listener. We hope you make it back." Like it was awesome.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I didn't see him yesterday. I guess.
What's up, Grookey?
Rugging. Can you guys hear me?
I
I
can
can
hear you.
now.
Cool. Yeah,
I
that's,
can.
you guys talking about Trav, the Australian dude? Was he
Yeah.
managing the room?
Yeah, I was hosting. He was co-hosting, and he managed the room for me. I'm like, yo, this guy's a fucking ninja.
Joe, I talked to him about some things he wants them. I'm in the jewelry business. He wanted something made. He's been like blowing up my DMs, like telling me to come into rooms and stuff. But yeah, he's pretty smooth and orderly. It's kind of funny, like watching people fall in the line, like you said, and then once the topic gets going, they throw out all decor and they just fucking dogpile it, and then you kick people down to listener and like, what'd you learn? What'd you learn? It's like behavioral conditioning.
Was that Trav or Hurl?
Yeah, same
That's
thing.
the same person.
Interchangeable, I think.
Yeah, pearls trade each
I
other.
think what
Yeah.
Twitter should do is, with the hands raised, perhaps put a number next to the hands so you know what order you're going in. That might be a novel concept. I mean, because it's like, it's funny when you see these people.
That's what the host has to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, you get these financial people. They're like 60 years old. They've never had to host a room before, and they get overwhelmed. And like, they just bail. They're like, I don't know whose hand was up first, and I'm getting DM'd in the back channel. And they're like an organist, like at a church. You got to use all your hands: your left hand, your right hand, your left foot, your right foot. And I'm like, just one step
It's also
at a time.
like being a conductor.
Yeah, it is.
You remember that Bug Bunny with the conductor and the white glove? And it's like, okay, like let's hear from KC the flutes. Go ahead, Casey.
I have a concern for Hurl that I've been meaning to bring up to him. I want to bounce off you guys.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he can't change the fact that he's from Australia.
Well, I mean, he's a criminal, but that's okay. So
New Hampshire. All right, go.
So he is only a couple 2 months into the crypto sphere and has fallen into the cult DAO revolt system, which I'm just a tiny bit familiar with.
Can you say more words and imagine I don't know anything about cult DAO, but they all sound like micro cults to me.
Yeah, so what you got, Melody?
No, I'm like, what is this cult DAO cult?
All right,
What?
so there are a multitude of DAO structured projects, and they lean real heavy on the community to fund their DAO by promoting a governance system of voting, which is not in itself bad, but that's where you start getting into trying to think of a better word, but kind of like literally culty type of mentality where all is for the cult DAO, all is for revolt, and everything is an agenda to drive more people to it. And Hurl seems like he's really latched on to the structure of Cold DAO and to the fact that it's like a kind of DeFi organic utilization of community to achieve certain goals. But my intuition tells me beware on Cult DAO and Revolt. I think it's like any other project that's really banking on the community, and it becomes everything leads back to that project. So it'd be only because he hasn't been on Spaces very long. He hasn't been involved in the community, crypto communities, revenue driven communities very long, and I don't know how to like gently give him a heads up without sounding like a total pessimist.
I mean, I did that to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
You did you like it? Did you hate it?
It was.
Right? What was your
I mean,
experience like with something that
well,
ended up
like
being
I'm
a truth
great.
later on?
It's a weird thing to not like something and be grateful for it at the same time.
Ah, chow. So would you be serving him by offering him what you believe to be
Yeah.
true? Okay,
Yeah.
then it's your
Yeah.
duty.
Yeah. All right.
Man, all that went over my head.
What's up,
Cool.
I think it's interesting, like, you know, giving people like your little take without influencing, like present it all without influencing. Like,
Yeah, so Trav was Trav was saying to me when I first met him like a month ago, he was like talking about he wanted to do a credit union within his community, his literal physical community. And he was asking me about different things, and I could have told him anything, he would kind of believe it, you know. And I just wanted to say, you know, be a little careful out here. There's a lot of scams going around. You know, I know where his heart is. Um, at least from, you know, again, I don't know the guy that much. I've talked to him a couple
But he
times.
seems like a quality person.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's kind of explained things, and I'm a pretty good bullshit detector, and nothing's really come off yet. But I try to encourage most people, like, this, you know, these rooms are they can be pretty intoxicating when you get in these rooms, and, you know, everyone's like cheering you on to do something, or like, send me this fucking coin and my wallet's this. And it's like, dude, you got to be careful with that. There's some snakes up in these bitches. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful. That's all I wanted to kind of convey to him. I know he's a smart guy, and I'm not even involved in crypto or Bitcoin, and I still enjoy going in these spaces and talking to people that are involved in these different things that are decentralized, centralized, whatever you want to call it. But I'm just like, yeah, just be a little bit more, do your due diligence. You know, there are sources of information outside of Twitter Spaces when it comes to investing and, you know, putting your money where things are at. So I encourage people, and in particular, next time I talk to him, I'll just kind of see where he's at in the whole his Twitter Spaces journey. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of noobs out there getting rugged and taken advantage of in general. You know, that's all I gotta say.
And it's going to continue happening. You know, there's no, in cybersecurity, the major challenge is that the end user is the company's worst enemy from a cybersecurity perspective, because they click on, it turns out we don't know how to stop people from clicking on bad links. It's just the nature of the beast, right?
So the next time my dad does it, I'm gonna not give him such a shit time, because he clicks on it. He's like, "Hey, Grookey, check out this
Yeah.
text message. It's from my bank. Should I click on it?" I'm like, "No, you shouldn't click on it."
Yeah.
He's like, "I already did." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Don't do it next time."
Yeah.
He's like, "Looks like it came from my bank." I'm like, "Get off the internet, Dad. Get off the
Ed
fucking internet."
McMahon on the phone, and I've just won the sweepstakes, right? And they just like cloned Ed McMahon's voice. You have won the sweepstakes. You know what I mean?
hello, DeFi.
Hey, DeFi, what's going on? We haven't seen you in a long time. Or at least it feels that way, because you have so much to offer. You're holding out on us.
Hey, baby girl, Melly B. What's up, Sandra? What's up, So You? What's up, Mike?
Yo, what's going on? We out here.
Hey.
You and I recorded one of my favorite episodes when we were just us in the room that day.
Word.
I push that out.
Word. Well, I would just say I've been busy a little bit. First of all, I appreciate the love from everybody. Y'all know that I'm always somewhere in the decentralized universe trying to figure out how to better self-govern myself and what God has blessed me with. Stop making excuses about all the things that are wrong and start coming up with solutions that are viable to myself that could be potentially useful for my neighbor.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, basically just, F the world, and worry about what I'm doing. And I can be healthier. I can be.
Is it really though, F the world, or is it just like don't mind, don't pay attention, lock eyes?
It's F the world for me. Yeah, the world.
Oh.
Not
I
you
like it,
guys, not you guys.
but he didn't.
The
He didn't
world
spell it.
outside of Twitter. The world outside of Twitter.
No, but he didn't spell it out. I think F the world is a polite way. You know what I mean? The other letters make F a really bad.
Yeah,
Like
no
F, is
four-letter
a bad,
words here,
Very
please.
bad. Very
F
bad.
gets a bad name because of the other letters that people think follows after.
Yeah, F that.
But if you say F, it's like kind of French. It's like if, you know?
Well, I've been going back over the Declaration of Independence and just studying how, like, the framers of the American Constitution combined the best political ideas, and so this whole idea, the idea of like federalism, separation of powers, checks and balances, was created. This was a form of government that really just had no model on the face of the earth because James Madison said that men are not angels, so government is necessary because it establishes some type of moral foundation. So I've been researching humbly how to take these words from history, study the history of the foundation of our country, starting with the Declaration of Independence and understanding that America is in $30 trillion or more of debt. How does that how do we look as individuals, or the backs of America, the 37 and down year old? How do we how do we play a role in recurating and reviving some of the things, the harsher laws that were created? How do we swim above those things, to say the least? And how do we answer those tough questions?
It's
So
interesting, though, because, like, as much as the US is in debt, what was that debt used to do? Right? You can say, you can say there's always the 10,000 horrible visions and the 10,000 beautiful ones. Both of them comprise reality, right? Ram Dass. And so, um, uh, one of the guys I know, Lincoln, he at the start of his blog, he has a quote from Alan Greenspan. And the quote says, "The very nature of finance is that it cannot be profitable unless it is significantly leveraged. And as long as there is debt,
mm,
there can be failure and contagion." Right? When I think about the path from 1776 to 2022, people often talk about late stage capitalism.
mm,
But what I'm seeing more is kind of a late stage calcification. Right? You know what happens with a stream or a pool of water that doesn't flow in and flow out? It gets stagnant, right? So we see that happen all the time, and even with us, right? Even with us, we get. Remember how we talked about, like, how, hold on, I'm just this personality. Like, my name is just Michael Jagdeo now, and I have to drag my whole personality history with me tomorrow. Am I really stuck in this person? Right? It's
mm.
not easy because everyone eats because of the way things work right now, right? And to change the way things work, you know what I mean? People see that as a changing of hands, right? And there's going to be a fight between those things. Like, to be honest with you, I'm in this country because other countries fought over Guyana. That's exactly why I'm
Right,
in the
right,
country.
right, right.
So,
That
like,
makes perfect
what's
sense.
good? So, what's good? Is it fucking communism? Is it capitalism? Well, I don't know. It was a competition for resources, as far as I can see. And that competition for resources has always existed. And I imagine it's only going to continue until we figure out how to create new fresh water, which is yet hypothetical. But I've stopped trying to change other people, right? I'm 39. So it's like, changing other people. Are you nuts? If you want to drain a swamp, drain your own swamp.
Well,
And
I
then,
mean, absolutely, absolutely, and it started, not to interrupt you, but
no, no, forget.
yeah, when you think about the pulling, that when you think about the pulling and the seesaw effect of the moral encompass, the imperialistic authoritarian, nism that exists, in the moral construct of mankind, you can have a healthier view of America. You can have a healthier view of your purpose. The key is to, discover your purpose, discover your reality, discover your truth, discover your religion, discover your worth, so that you can be healthy. See, the idea is not to be just financially healthy, but to be healthy from the inside and out. But when you were always told since the 1850s, that if you weren't white, according to Chief Justice Charles J. Murray, a race of people whom nature has marked as inferior, then it's hard to see yourself as worth anything. When you look at 1857 and you look at African Americans being denied citizenship in the Dred Scott decision, and Chinese people not being able to become, or black or mulatto persons or Indians shall be not allowed to have grievance of favor or evidence of favor in the court of law from a Chief Justice perspective. When you look at, Jim Crow,
Mm-hmm.
so you're talking about 200, you're looking at 2 centuries where, a Chief Justice Taney says that no rights which any man is bound to respect. He's talking about free black people are taxed like whites, but they do not enjoy the same protection and entitlements. These are direct words that were written about direct people. This was not some, this was, and so in 1868, the wealth of centuries of slavery accrued to whites. How do I know that? Because when Washington D.C. freed the slaves in when they started talking about being free in 1862, the only reparations that were paid were not to those people who were enslaved, but to those slave owners, because they were considered a loss of property. So after 2 centuries of this, you had 1887 that came around, and at the beginning of the 19th century, family, Southern states codified a system of laws that practiced subordinate African Americans to white. That was called Jim Crow segregation. It meant separate, equal. So you're talking about how do you
Well, consider that my lineage is from India, and arguably India did this 6,000 years ago, but called it the caste system.
Right.
Caste system. So it's like it's in history. What I've seen is not just one color doing it to the other, but as a mean of governance, Indians arguably did it to themselves through
Absolutely.
the system. So
Absolutely.
I've seen that man looks to subordinate other men, and I've never not that seen that being the case, even if they're the same color, which is arguably scarier.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Right? Because nobody gets, you know what I mean? Like look at England. Why do English people have Viking blood? Well, because the Vikings fucking sailed over there and ransacked the shit for a few hundred years. You know what I mean? I arguably they had the same complexion of skin. Well, maybe English. I don't know who got more sun. They probably got the same amount of sun, right? Norway and England.
Yeah, they probably did. They were both sitting on a rock, so of ice.
To me, this is the most uncomfortable piece, and I want you to get your take on it. Would slavery still exist if America didn't lead the way in terms of abolition?
Absolutely, it would exist because it existed in the Middle East. It existed in the Far East, and it was there. It was already implemented as a centralized form of practice to certain states in certain areas of the world. This is why, I was saying, like, when the object here and the goal is to find yourself and discover the deeper meaning, of yourself, so, for us, it's not necessarily about picking and choosing who did what, who was wrong, who was right, but identifying and fully understanding, truly, uh, through the cognizant rama of your own ability to decide and choose, or should I say your free will, bro. You have to figure out how are you going to respond, because things happen all the time, but how we respond, it matters. Go ahead, chick. I'm gonna stop talking because I feel like I'm preaching a little bit. So
It's all right, man. If there's never been a time to preach in history, it's probably now. So I feel that. But here's what I would lament on in the situation. When it comes down to racism, I think so. You kind of has a point. As in, men want to subjugate other men, regardless if they can get to people that don't look like them to do it. And then, like, I kind of figured out racism was a little bit of bullshit. When you come down to the thinking about it like this, there was a certain time, right, where if you would have called a French guy an English guy, you'd have had to fist fight that dude, and you couldn't have told them apart. They look like cousins, right? Like if you called an Irish guy an English guy, matter of fact, nobody really likes the English. But if you called anybody English that was white, other than English people, they got pretty offended by it and would want to fist fight you over it. So there was
I'm
that time.
offended, sir. I'm English. I'm offended. I'm just kidding.
No, I totally understand. If I was British, I would wake up offended too every day. No offense. I love you. but, but it was like, so I saw that, right? And then, so I grew up in Memphis, right? So I hung out in a culture that was a lot more of excitement. But I watched interracism among black people is a trip to me, of course, because I was an outside perspective. But when I would watch, like, I had a very dark skinned friend of mine that we would hang out. And when some light skinned guy would come around, he would almost immediately start cracking on him for being light skinned. And like, I always thought that was kind of humorous. I was like, dude, he's black. He's just like, I didn't get it, but I grew up and got it, And then I've seen the same thing, like Indians, right? Like somebody was talking about India. They like literally have a tier system where another Indian is a piece of shit compared to this other Indian, and they look exactly alike. Like you couldn't have told them apart. So it's like, I don't know, man. So I felt like racism was kind of just an easy card to explain away hate and vitriol in people's heart that's going to be there anyways, regardless of whatever reason they put behind it. So on that note, that's the way I've looked at it. It's not that it doesn't exist and it's not used in a way to malign people or hurt people, but that it's the foundation of hate. No, it's the expression of hate already existing. It's not the foundation of it, for sure.
Absolutely agreed. And that's well said. It is not the absolutely foundation. It's so funny you say that, because we think that, like, we overuse and aggrandize the idea of this word racism. And I just feel like racism is not as it's not as important as um you know the idea of our own identity, because racism, actually, when people say racism, it's one thing to have the opinion that racism is baloney, but it's another thing to identify the source of this idea.
Mhm.
It's one thing to say, oh, this is fake, and how it's affecting the world. Obviously it is affecting the world because we still are talking about it. So obviously it hasn't disappeared,
Not
because,
everyone wants to talk about it. Some people just won't stop talking about it.
well,
I
I
think
think over talking
I
about it is a problem. Yeah, I
right.
do. I think over talking. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Melody.
Yeah. I think that's a big deal. Where I live, like living in different countries and living in different states here in the US and stuff, it's like there are some people that just want, it's an ecosystem, an echo chamber, and people just like are like validate what you're saying, will empathize with what you're saying, and not find the moment to exit except continue. And that, to me, it's an issue. It's an issue because, like, where I live, it is every day in my face, because people just won't drop it. And it's like, if you keep it up, then it will always be there. I mean, and this is just very simple. It's like, The system exists because we keep implementing it on a daily basis, right?
Besides the government making laws, what could we actually do? Like, we have the Civil Rights Act. It's against the law, you know,
No
to
stacks,
to
no
be
stacks. We
racist.
can't legislate. We can't
Well,
legislate that. We have to
we've
call it
already
out,
done it.
right?
Like, and so
Well, no,
the
but
only
Right,
thing,
here's
the only
right,
other thing we can do
right,
now is if
right.
somebody breaks those rules that government and society, then we address them at the time that it's broken, and as a society we condemn it and change it and punish the people. But other than that, that's all we can do. I mean, unless you have
no.
something
I
else
don't
we
know
can do.
about that. No, we have to stand up to this conversation. When somebody starts misusing that word, you have to say that no. And a matter of fact, somebody who misuses that word and treats it like what I call a race hustler, they're committing a sin because they are pointing at the expression and not the root of the problem. You can't ever solve the root problem of hate by saying, "Oh, we got to fix racism," because racism again is the expression of hate. So you can't fix an expression. You can
Yeah.
only fix the hate. So,
Yeah.
like, if you call it racism, then you're even lying about where it's stemming from. It's like if you don't pull the root out from the weed, it will constantly regrow and sometimes get to overtake the garden. You have to go for the root of the problem, and that's why I approach race like that. It's hate and it's an expression. It's not the foundation, and it's very
I'll,
You,
important that you
you,
don't let people
I'll,
use it as a foundation.
yeah, you're right. The government can never legislate what somebody feels. All right, you can't legislate somebody's feeling or emotion or hatred. Right. All you can legislate is how they act on it. So I can't legally say I'm
I'll give
not
you
going to
that.
rent this house to you because of the color of your skin, because that's illegal. Even though I may not like the person and I may
I'll
not want to
give you
rent to the
that.
person,
But
but
wait,
if I
wait,
get
wait, wait.
caught
But can I
Let me
doing
just
that,
give you
Stacks?
one
But wait,
sec.
but
Go ahead. One sec. Let me just give you perspective and we'll continue.
Hold on, hold on. Your mic is really off. Sorry, guys, I had to mute everyone because Mike's mic, Mike's mic is gargly. So
Oh, is it
anytime,
really? Is it still?
yeah, the feed.
Okay.
There's
I was understanding them fine though. I hear the gargle.
Yeah,
but
I can get it, but yeah.
he couldn't get a word edgewise because of the gargle.
go ahead, Stacks. Finish your point. You were
Yeah.
making a
So
very
so
good
the point
point.
I was making is that, and hate's always going to be there. It'll always be in people's hearts. Some people hate for whatever reason, political, racial, cultural, whatever. The best that a government can do is to make it illegal to act on that and be prejudiced against somebody openly. But it does happen. It happens undercover. It is. But some people are dumb enough to speak about it out loud when they do it, and then those people get prosecuted for it. But yeah, there's always a buddy system, and it goes past racial lines. Like, even like, I live in Texas, right? My wife went to the University of Texas. When she goes for job interviews, a lot of times there's a lot of Texas A&M guys in the company, and they hire other Texas A&M guys. So that's just the nature of humans. We do that type of stuff. We get in our own clans, we get in our own groups, and we we use prejudice against other people.
I've always been of two minds about that. It's always been hard for me to pick a side on that situation. I'm back and forth with it, right? I agree that there ought to be some kind of protections in a lot of regards, but at the same time, like you were saying, though, you almost said it when you were talking about it. There's a hidden agenda, right? And I'd almost rather know. If you don't fucking want to treat people right, I almost don't want to shop with you. I'd almost rather you put a sign up saying, "Oh, I don't want these kinds of people." So I know you don't want my kind of people either, because I would want them people. So like, I almost want to know who the son of a bitch is, so I don't get to spend money with him. And I feel like there's a lot of people that have had, really right now politically, we've seen it. They've had hidden agendas. They've gotten all of our money. They've used our money against us in propaganda in ways that has hurt the very people that brought them up, right? So I almost would rather know that they're a sack of shit than not know they're a sack of shit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can agree on that. The problem with that philosophy is that, let's just say let's just pick a person and let's say they were purple. If you only had like 2% of your population of purple people eaters, the purple people, and they went inside of a store, and the people in that store was like, no purple people are allowed. Like, where can they go, right? And that's actually what
No, and
happened
I
during
get that. No,
segregation. They did that to black
well,
people, so that's why we
no,
had
hold
to have
on.
a law
Now I get that
saying you can't do
somewhat. I get
that.
that somewhat, but then Black Wall Street developed, right? Actually, the black people were doing better when they like told white people to fuck off than they are ever doing now. No offense to like white people or nothing, but that's just really that's how it was.
I'm
They were
offended.
winning in ways. British people are so offended by like farts in the wind. Gee whiz. I thought in your general direction, sir. But
Chicken.
no, it's like,
I'm
yo,
offended. I'm offended. Keep going. I'm offended.
I love you, Grok. That's great. But I just, to me, it's like I saw, when you look at history, they were winning on so many levels until like everything else. It seemed like government wanted to interfere in their lives and they destroyed everything. Fucking government is definitely the
Yeah,
negative
that's a
common
good point
derivative.
too. Yeah, we still see it today though, like with the Hispanic communities. You know, they dominate certain fields. They cut all the grass. They're in construction.
Like cleaning
Asian
and
communities. So they band together. They
Making
hire
the
each
best
other.
tacos.
Yeah, they find their way in society and they thrive, right? And
Churros.
whatever. And then you go to the top and it's all Jews.
arepas. You go to
Listen,
tacos.
I took a hard left turn. Holy shit. It's like all of a
He
sudden
does
there were
that.
small hats
I
everywhere.
had to throw that in, all right?
He does that shit all the time.
They
It's
let the
hilarious.
Mexicans work on the engines, The Jews
And then
the Jews own the car company.
Listen,
Mike Tech
I'm
one
going to
too.
I'm going to state something that's a hot take as what do you call it, a representative white person. I would be the most sad person ever if all we had was white people's food. I want you to know that. I know in my picture I'm a skinny person, but I eat like a fat person. You understand me? And if I didn't have like good greens, good tacos, I wouldn't know what to do with my life. You
I
understand
would do
me? That would be a sad
without soul
Nobody
existence.
food.
goes to the
I would not exist.
bangers and mash restaurant.
Wait, you're telling me you got
Nobody goes to
Mexican?
the mayonnaise on bread restaurant, Grok. That's what nobody goes
I
to.
know.
Nobody's like, oh,
I'd be
let's go
dead
to the
without
mayo
soul
place.
food. I'd be dead without
Hey man, I go to the mayonnaise bread restaurant, man.
put the mayonnaise on them
We
French fries.
appreciate your support.
And listen, I'm from outer space. My name's DeFi.
What kind of food do you bring to the table? This is what I need to know.
Wait,
Mars
Space
plants.
trash.
I've learned how to develop
I
space
fucking heard that.
vegetables.
Listen, the first thing I'm going to do when I see some aliens is ask them what kind of weed they're smoking and can I get some of it? Because, that's a great way to build a friendship.
You know who
dude,
really
I
took
thought
over
of
where
it.
I'm at?
Hold on.
The
Chicken.
the
I
food
thought of
wise is the pho restaurants. The Vietnamese restaurants, man, they got me addicted, bro.
It's so
They,
All right.
fucking good.
they're
You
running
seen
the
that?
world over
So
here.
fucking good.
It's
Let's
so good.
let's go back. Let's go back to aliens getting high. How is it that
Okay.
they
Yeah. That's a good tangent. Go there. Proceed.
what is it that they use? Do they like asphyxiate? Well, they don't have oxygen, so what are they breathing? And then like do they inhale? Like do they have lungs that they inhale with? Or do they just like is it an ointment that their skin absorbs?
They
Oh,
smoke
Listen,
them
not
I don't
moon. They
know, but I'm
smoke them
willing to
moon
take the
rocks.
time to find out. I will take the time to find out. Like if they take the weed and they start rubbing it on their skin, I'm going to let them do that while I smoke a bowl. Okay,
Hey,
we're
Mellaby,
going to converse like that.
I'm gonna do some deep dive research later when I have a couple gummies. I'm gonna bring back that research to you. Okay, real alpha, so we can
I
know.
think they have to be mushroom gummies though. I think mushrooms are the ones are the ticket to get to
Yep,
speak
gotta have the
to these.
shrooms. I got those too, so I might combine the both, and I'll become super powerful, and I'll connect with the aliens, and I'll report the data back to this group.
You
And I
come
just
Listen,
back.
want to
Grok,
say,
you're not doing shit until you take 5 drops of LSD and drop it on your mushrooms and then go ahead and rock that world. And
Is that
then
how
you
you
call me.
party? Is that how I have to
Holy
party now?
fuck.
I have partied in such manners before. I am now old, so when I do mushrooms, it is just mushrooms.
100%.
Hold on, I've never heard of this. You drop on your acid. I mean, you drop acid on your mushroom, dude.
Yes, hippie flipping,
Yeah? Okay.
hippie flipping, and you can also drop like if you drop a drop of L on your roll, there's another good time for you.
Let the
hey,
good times
shout
roll.
out to President Lyndon B. Johnson. Big shout out to you. You know what I'm saying, to all my people that don't know what I'm talking about. You know.
Listen, I was very mad at Timothy Leary. I believe that Timothy Leary was a CIA plant meant to take what is good about LSD and make it bad. Albert Hoffman was not happy with the way Timothy Leary took his great and wonderful substance and spun it to misuse it in the way that he did. He took a very good thing that was powerful and abused it in a way that was, I'd have kicked his ass in real life kind of thing.
Yeah, just help us recover. That's all I'm saying. We can talk about drugs, we can talk about racism, we can talk about cryptocurrency, technology, the Constitution, world affairs. But when you see people fighting and kicking for their life, help them up. The Constitution provides that opportunity for every American, black, white, yellow, Spanish. But we can't deny the fundamental foundations of the roots and sources of why these young children believe the things that they believe, and why they do the things they believe. We have to talk about the founders on slavery. We have to talk about the goods, what good slavery did for America before we could ever talk about human rights, before we could ever talk about the idea that this was even a concept of illegalism or moral, unbalance. We have to say, well, slavery did help a lot of, white people, white Irish children, black Irish men, white Irish men went into slavery as well, and so slavery was a part. Before we keep talking about it, it was a part of a design corporate infrastructure of freedom for those people who just did what was happening in their own country. To Mike's point, so there were people that founded slavery. Yes, Thomas Jefferson with the Northwest Ordinance before Jim Crow even existed. You're talking about
They're all dead.
Yeah, they're all dead, but just because somebody's dead doesn't mean
slavery existed outside North America before 1440, whatever.
Absolutely. They're dead, but their laws and their ways and the things that they have left behind, their residue is not, And I think it's important to say that in order to come up to contribute to a solution, you have to recognize that, yeah, if I go and I kill your son, God forbid, or your daughter or your dog, I don't care when I die. That doesn't bring back my dog. That doesn't bring back my pet chihuahua. You know what I mean? It's like he's gone forever. So now I have to
But
live.
don't you think there has to be some consequences that American government should be paying those people who were stripped down from their houses and brought here by force and used like an animal? If they were that, their children or their grandchildren has to be paid, right? Were
Nope.
they paid anything?
No,
Hold
Nope.
on,
no. The
Did they?
government.
GK,
Let me
Nope.
say
GK.
this.
I'll
Let me
tell
say
you
Soon
this.
as
what,
Let me
somebody
say.
GK.
Were
Let
tells
me
there
me
say this.
that
Hold
Let
reper-
me
on,
me
say
an
this.
hold on.
Aztec or a Mayan,
Hold
the
on.
Spaniards that conquered the Aztecs, and I never got paid shit,
Hold
and
on.
I'm now a
Exactly.
Mexican, and it's over
In
with.
past civilizations, where are the reparations? Like, did the Egyptian
Well, and
slavery
not just
get?
let's tailor this
Did
down
the
to the
Egypt?
specific of GK. No, let's tailor it down to her specific thing. Okay. Now, are you going to collect the same percentage from the African tribes that enslave the other tribes? Are we take 100%, right? So we'll take
That's a
100% of
very
what it
good
costs.
point. That's a very
And are
good
we going
point.
to take, so say if 15% of the African tribes did that, can we get reparations from that 15% to American black people? Are you down with that, GK? Can we split the cost of all of the people involved in said
Genghis
things?
Khan, Attila the
Also,
Hun, we can go.
right, and the pirates that were
That is
involved, the
unique.
Muslim trade coasts that were
That
involved.
is
So can we
unique,
take
man.
that and then break
I
down the
think this,
100%?
yeah,
Can we
yeah.
do
I
that?
mean, there was a slavery in
Cool.
Ottoman era. There's a slavery in Middle East and China,
I'll
and
tell you what. Okay, great.
I mean, we know
As an
what
American,
happened with the
I
All
will
right,
Jewish
guarantee
guys.
our
genocide, right?
part.
All
You
right.
get theirs. I will
Let
guarantee.
us put up our hands to speak because I think this is an important enough discussion that everyone is allowed to be clear and is allowed to be uninterrupted. Let's hear from Melody, Sandra, and they can direct the flow of traffic, let's say.
Go ahead, Sandra. And then after Sandra, I want Inacho because he's had his hand up. Salud, Inacho.
Okay, thanks. From a legal perspective, and I've kind of talked with people on and off for years about, well, how do you structure reparations with all this whataboutism and all the pointing of fingers at various parties that caused slavery? I have another point I want to make first, and this has nothing to do with slavery, okay? indentured servitude was the norm in colonial America. And what people would do is that they would basically pay services in terms of, working for someone in advance to be brought over to the New World and work. And then they'd work off their debt from being brought over, etc. And then they go about their merry way. Now, as far as slavery goes, I look at the reparations issue from a perspective of, well, obviously the statute of limitations has passed on that, but there's no reason to think that the United States government couldn't waive that. I mean, if you really want to put actions instead of words, that's where it would need to be. So, for example, you could say to the primary banks that deal with the Federal Reserve, unless you deal with reparations, you're no longer going to be a primary bank involved with the federal government or Federal Reserve. So that there are ways to coerce it into a reparations being brought into reality, and there's a whole there's many ways to do that. That's one of them. The second thing is that you know who do we try to repair, and why do we do it? Well, I look at it as like an insurer would look at it when looking at a wrongful death or a products liability case, whatever that may be. Like, what is the value of that person's life in light of what happened previously? Now, for example, one could say, okay, well, the course of everyone's life who was affected by slavery has been affected. Like, for example, Joe over there isn't a college professor because, generations ago, his relatives, his direct line that he's a descendant of, was put into slavery. And as a result of that, the end result is they didn't have a typical progression of their skills and talents over the years. They didn't have that. All they had was, being slavery, and then their way of income, their way of life is altered as a result of somebody else by no fault of their own. And that's part of the philosophy that I think of when thinking about the descendants of slaves and how they should be treated. So, because maybe but for slavery in the earlier centuries here in the United States, their lives would have been incredibly different. I mean, look at Georgetown University. The only reason Georgetown University exists today is because they made a decision a couple hundred years ago to sell like 16 of their slaves to keep the fledgling Georgetown University afloat. So when you think of that, there's no getting around the fact that, okay, well, if that's true, then the opposite must be true too. People who were slaves and their subsequent line of secession were deeply affected by slavery, and they're entitled to be brought up to what's the reasonable standard, the median.
Well said.
Thanks. And so that's how I look at it. There's no need for all these whataboutisms. It's just common sense in a way. So at that point, if you accept that that's true, then you have to think about, okay, well, how do we calculate what's fair? How do we do that? And how do we pass that cost either along social lines with the rest of the population, or is there a way we can force the people that we can prove, like, for example, if we found out that, and I'm just saying, putting this out there, I don't know if it's true, what if we found out that JP Morgan and some of the other primary banks were directly responsible for slavery? Would we want them to, instead of enjoying incredibly huge salaries and packages that they get when they retire, wouldn't we rather use that to pay back the people that their bank or their companies directly affected? Isn't it time that we apply corporate welfare in a different way so that we look at what was done to make that company? If it was on the blood and of, Africans that came here, then, I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be involved in paying reparations as well. So, I think that Cory Booker, he's a senator in New Jersey. I think that he has kind of started trying to figure that out, and he came up with like around 60,000. I think that's grossly low. I think that if we're not above 100,000, we're a bunch of assholes. I mean, I think that the United States is sufficiently evolved enough so that it should lead the way into the future in terms of how do we repay building this country on the back and the blood of people that didn't choose to be here voluntarily.
White people suffered too, Sandra. That's right.
I'm not
White people suffered. White businesses suffered as
okay.
well. Yes.
They have, but I'm saying I have to, that's fine. They have to establish how that relates back to deserving and being entitled to reparations. If they can't prove that they are a descendant of a slave, then they're entitled to nothing. If they are a descendant of someone and who's entitled, then they can make a claim, and that can be properly evaluated by whoever is going to be handling those.
Do you think the banks are doing that right now? Bank of America is doing that right now by giving people of Black and Latin heritage no mortgages with no fees, or like I don't know what the rule is right
No,
now,
Well,
no
but
I'd have to
Yeah, no
say,
PMI,
money
no
down,
PMI,
no
no money
closing
down.
costs.
okay, one at a time,
Mhm.
please. The question was directed to me, I think. Unless they are giving somebody cash in hand, in
Right,
addition to that, they aren't doing enough.
right.
It's just bullshit. It's all lip service.
Exactly. Yeah, for face.
How do you qualify for that? Because I'm Mexican.
You have to live in
Hey,
a certain
Nacho.
state. You have to live in a
Hey,
certain state to qualify.
Nacho, go ahead.
You have to, yeah, it's Miami, Los Angeles, Detroit, and two other cities. I forget. Anyways,
Damn.
you don't have to be Hispanic. You just have to buy in an area where the demographic is 50% or greater minority. But you don't have to be. That's illegal. But no, how's everyone doing today? Anyways, there's still slavery now, if you guys think about it. And every nation that has existed, every empire that has existed, has been built on slavery. The Romans didn't build Rome. The Egyptians didn't build Egypt. Uh, the Aztecs didn't build Tenochtitlan. They would go and they would um, conquer a village and bring back workers. I mean, that's. And if you think about it now, it's not so much because they're Hispanic or from Latin America, but it's just the proximity of Latin America. But that's current slavery, even though you pay them. But I mean, the condition. I'm a truck driver, and I go throughout the whole United States, and I've seen the labor that they do. It's you might pay them $10 an hour, but it's still tough labor, and that labor you would have to pay a United States citizen $50 an hour. Um, so it's tough to talk about reparations because I'm a first generation born. My parents are Mexican, right? But I've had every availability to me in this country, but because I've adapted to this country, I didn't. I don't live on the culture of my parents. I live on what you need to do in this country to succeed, and this country provides everything you need to succeed, in my opinion. My
Absolutely.
my other two,
Absolutely. I agree with that.
and that's just the Constitution, right? And even now, the Constitution is being attacked. But if we follow the Constitution, everyone is afforded the same rights. I'm not saying there's not discrimination, but someone else spoke about that's just human nature, right? If you go to Mexico, you will be discriminated, whether you're black, white, even if you're Guatemalan, and you go to Mexico, you will be discriminated. And if you go to Guatemala and you're Mexican, you will be discriminated. That's just our nature. Um, the one thing I'm not gonna downplay the treatment of the slaves in the United States, because that was a rarity, I think, in slavery, because it's like it was generations and generations of people born into slavery.
Over 2 centuries.
Right,
Over 2 centuries of slavery and over 65 years of accrued wealth built on without minorities having any rights or even be specifically blacks
right.
or Indians
Right, but
specifically codified as that.
right, and that's just the tragedy of nation building, because I mean, if we want to go back, then who do we really owe reparations to? And we're not even talking about Native Americans, right? And I mean,
Because it's fraud. It's fraud and murder. Those have no, in certain states that has no statute of limitation. Fraud
right,
has like a 10-year, and then murder has like a certain length of statute of limitations. Slavery exists.
I gotta ask a question. No, I gotta ask a question in this scenario because I've heard a lot of things. I'm just gonna throw the question out so y'all to kick it around. Y'all got to explain to me poor white people. If it was about slavery being why the fact there's poor black folks today or struggling Hispanic folks in America today, then somebody got to explain to me how there's even one single poor white person. Because apparently that shouldn't exist, right? The two paradigms can't exist.
You know what's
that one is a derivative of necessity, and then one like exists as what? How does that even work, dude?
Chicken, you know what I find amazing? Honestly, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, right, California, and it's rare to do that around the Compton area. So it's rare to see like white people. Honestly, you see Hispanics and blacks. And then so now that
so you're whitest. No,
now that I'm a truck driver, I'm like, oh shit, there is white people in the United States, right? but you know what's funny is like what's crazy is like I never thought that there was poor white people, right? But that's like the majority of the poor are white people, you know. But why? Because the majority of the people in this country are white, right? Like if you go to Mexico, the majority of the people that are poor are Mexican. Why? Because that's the majority of the people that are there. If you go to Nigeria, the majority of the poor people or the majority of the people that have better positions are Nigerians. Why? Because that's Nigeria. You know, I heard you guys speaking about, you know, Hispanics and blacks and this. I think in racism, I think discrimination will end the minute we don't identify ourselves as something. We are all the same race. We are all human. We're all human, you know?
Hey, brother, when you die, your bones are all white,
Yeah,
man.
and we bleed the same shit. We eat the same thing.
And your calaca, your ending calaca, your school, your calaca is the same fucking thing with your teeth. Come on, man.
I wish everyone had the same mindset as you, but that's
We
not
are a
but you know why we don't have it?
species.
We don't have
We're
it.
not a race. We're a
I have taken
species.
Folks, and we need to, you know, kind of give everybody a turn and be courteous and not raise our voices and argue. If we're not able to do that, we'll have to start playing a game where everybody takes turns, and if they're unable to control themselves, they'll be dropped down to listener until they can figure it out. All right? So let's just be cordial and take turns.
Sorry.
So I have taken few sociology, anthropology classes, and our professor pointed out something. There was a 1,000 CV was sent out, and two CVs that had exactly same education, same skills, same talents, 100% same CV, two of them. The one had the name that indicated that person was white. The other person, the name was indicated as black. And guess what, guys? 800 phone calls and invitations to an interview came for the CV that hold the white person's name. Only 20 of them was returned when the name was indicated that person was black. So racism very well exists in this country because when you look at our education system, the students are zoned to certain places. They're stuffed in certain neighborhoods that they don't get the enough education, right? There's single parents working 2-3 jobs, and they're not be able to take care of those kids, and they're neglected. These are not coming from my mouth. These are coming from my sociology professor. So we are putting those people in certain situations where they cannot get out of it, right? We are not giving, there is no equal opportunity in this country. There is no. I don't believe that. If you're born in a certain family, in a certain neighborhood, and if you have a certain skin color. When I was vacationing, I met this lovely sister and brother. They were finance professors from Norway, very well educated people.
Okay. We're going to have to limit our comments to a reasonable amount of time. I mean, if you find yourself talking and going off track, kind of like rein yourself in and be courteous to others who have their hands raised. Thank you.
I just want to add a last sentence, if possible. He told me that I have all the education and skills, but people only see this, and he showed his skin color, even in Norway. And that was heartbreaking for me to hear. So that's all I want to say. That's it.
Thank you. Melody, who's next? Oh, okay. Stacks, go ahead.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest problems here is, if we're talking about reparations, is that it's what's in between people's heads, right? That's the biggest thing that hurts people when they're subjugated, is their mind state. They don't know how to get out of it. So if you just dump money in their lap, if they don't know how to use it, they're just going to spend it, and then they'll be in the same place they were. So to give you a quick example, and then I'll pass the hands. I'm Hispanic. My wife is black. My wife, she could trace her lineage back to slavery in Kentucky. She's in her 40s and about to be a millionaire because her family, her grandparents, the way they raised their kids, the way those kids raised their kids, they all went to college, they all grew up educated, they taught them how to speak, they taught them how to act, they disciplined them. That goes a million miles more than the government dropping $10,000 in your bank account. Okay? So when you live in a land, you have to figure out the game that you're playing and how to play the game. And then you go and position yourself. It may take more than one generation, but if you do it, it can be done. So, like, are you going to give my wife reparations? She doesn't need it. We don't need it. We live in a 4,000 square foot house. I drive a Jaguar. I don't need no damn reparations, right? We're successful in America. So, I just don't like when people paint a brush of everybody. Like, every single minority is some woe is me, lowly person that can't be successful because of slavery happened a long time ago. It's not true, and it'll start in your own family and how you raise your family.
DeFi.
Yeah, I'll just say I agree with pretty much 90% of what he's saying, but what I don't think we should remiss the accruance of what already exists. I whether they're black, whether they're white, I think it's insignificant. Just to go back to what Sandra was saying, I'm going to be very short here. Is when you say where do we start paying reparations if you can prove that you were descendants of slave, or if they trace back to a certain state or what have you. No. You have to look at the 13th Amendment. If you are a prisoner, you are a slave. That is the way that it is codified. That is the way that the laws of the land are established. If you get handcuffs placed on your wrists and you are convicted as a criminal, you are entitled to indentured servitude, or still considered by codification. It's all about codification here. When you single out a person,
right. You may be right, but they're going to have to, make a claim or file a class action. That's a little different than people who can establish they are, a direct descendant of someone who was involuntarily held through no fault of their own to work a property over the course of one or two generations. So I understand what you're saying, and I get the philosophy behind it. This country jails more people than almost any country in the world, and I think they're even more so than China. So I understand the philosophy that goes behind that, and we need to address that. I don't know if, for purposes of this conversation, that's relevant, although I can sense that maybe in the future, class action will be done. And we still have jails in this country that don't even have air conditioning. So when you think about that, it's really appalling how we run our system here. So I understand that. I'm sensitive to those issues. I think today we're kind of talking about the descendants of people who were enslaved by Americans in the beginning of the 18th and through the Civil War here. So I appreciate your view. Who's next? Web 3S, I think you're next.
Well, when it comes down to determining the basis of the claim, it should really go back to the actual owners who practiced it, and their family lineage should be the ones who, if you're going to say that reparations are needed, then they're the ones that should be the focus, not everyone. Because like my family came, and indentured servitude was into Virginia. And from there, pretty much moved around. And there was no family wealth passed around from all their labor. And at the same time, the country back at the time when slavery was occurring, there was a small percentage of the population that was enslaved, and the rest of the population wasn't living directly off their backs. Only the agrarian Southern utilized that, whereas because the North segregated on allowing slave, not allowing slave, you could transport back and forth. They made all kind of rules, but the basis comes back is today judging the past. There was a wrong done, but today's future is based on you, and you have all those available capabilities. You're not shoehorned in one place. It's up to you to get up and move and do what you need to do to take yourself beyond. And a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Right.
So.
Yes, we've discussed that previously, and that's duly noted. Inacho, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with everybody what everyone was saying. And aside from that, if you give everybody just money and you don't really go, if you want to do it, right? I mean, I don't agree with it, but if you want to do it and you go after just the whole society, they're just going to end up spending that money, and it's going to go back to maybe the original people that benefited the most from slavery. I mean, it's going to go back into the economy, right? So it's just not going to fix anything. I believe, honestly, with all my experience, that this country affords every opportunity. I mean, I went to college, but I didn't finish. My brother and sister never even went, and they make 100,000 plus, right? My brother's a bank manager. My sister's HR rep for a big car manufacturer in the United States. And I mean, it's just the opportunity. And we came from Compton. I'm talking about from Compton. It's like I find it crazy how being from Compton, right, and then I moved to Texas, and I live in North Texas or East Texas. I don't know what it's called. Anyways, north of Dallas. And those areas are, I mean, they're nice, right? Their schools are like one of the best in the United States. So I look at the funding for each area that I've been in the United States, and I can't imagine that these smaller cities in Texas have more funding than does the big old Los Angeles Unified School District, right? I can't imagine the money is just way more in LAUSD, but my whole schooling was put videotapes and watch movies, right? And all they cared about was the money. And who were the teachers? The teachers were minorities themselves. The community itself didn't care about the community itself. And over here in Texas, the community cares about its community. And I think that's one thing you have to show people and help people in building community. My Little League coach came from Iowa, and he still lives in Los Angeles, South LA. And the park that he lives in front of, that he was a coach in, that where I live and where I play baseball, if it wasn't for him, that park would still be overran by gangs and drugs and drug addicts and drug dealers.
Right.
If it wasn't for him, why did it take someone from Iowa to come into our community to fix it? Why? Nobody cared. Nobody. It's amazing how. And now he's a coach for the high school there, right? And he's affecting. Why does it take someone that's not from the? But he doesn't care because he didn't care about the culture. He didn't care about the skin color. He didn't care. He just wanted to help people. You know, and I think that's what we have to focus on, the future, our future, and helping each other. Anyways, that's it.
I think
Excellent.
that brings up a couple of things in my mind where it's like, one, that what I said earlier about ecosystems and echo chambers and all that, right? So it's like the people that are in it will keep the cycle. It's like a little tornado, like a whirlwind, like you're in it. And then it takes something outside to see in and maybe correct it or bring their 2 cents in or whatever. Um, but then that person, that person that can see inside can either make it a good thing or a bad thing. Like they'll take advantage, they'll fix the thing and then take advantage because they're at a higher, I don't know, standing point, you know. This is interesting. I don't know. I don't know why it's like that. It's like the humanity, like the good part of this person, like to come in and see what's going on and how to help. But then other people that are like more that take advantage would be him, and then set up like a fun, like always the other side, like the whatever he is like what's good for me. I can help this situation with
Hey, quick joke, quick joke. The Iowan colonized LA. Sorry, before anything serious was said.
But
yeah.
you know what's interesting is all he did was use the laws that exist. He didn't change nothing. He just made the community follow the laws that are already in place to better the community. That's why I think, and we don't just need education. We need to properly understand the way our country works, and we have to follow our laws, right? And that's all he did was hold them to their feet to the fire, the local leaders, to make a change. He didn't bring money out of his pocket, and he had a good job. He was an engineer for Raytheon, and but he didn't have to use his own money. He didn't have to use other people's money. All he had to do was hold the people that are in place accountable. So we have to educate instead of looking back. We have to look forward and change it. Change where the course that our communities are going to, and it'll be better. But some people in government need it to be that way. That's unfortunate.
It's the common thread that the culture, if you look at what was the education of the civics of the country, which is to understand its history, to have that common thread for those who come and have been here and those who come and assimilate and bring their culture and their things. But that common thread is the piece that the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, those are the things that should keep us as a common thread, and all the other noise, all the other adjectives that are put on things to create arguments and positions of power, they need to, those adjectives need to be buffed, not be so shiny. And that's just my opinion on it.
Excellent. Excellent.
The common thread should be the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. But what the common thread is now that destroys everything is the two-party system, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Wait, shouldn't the common thread be our humanity, the blood that we bleed? Like, shouldn't that be the common thread? And all the other things just like,
The common thread is the Constitution. That's that in America, in the United States of America. Our common thread is the United States Constitution. It starts with we, the people. So everyone is right. Everyone here is absolutely right. We, the people, are that Constitution and have the responsibility to create and form laws in our own opinion. of the future. So you have to hold people accountable in your individual cities, in your individual towns. And hey, look, this generation is a lot smarter than the last generation. And I think that's a plus for the United States of America. That says that the stain of racism is being erased. The stain of segregation is being erased. But the wealth gap still exists. 76% of the wealth in America, the financial dollar is circulated by one group of people. 8% of that wealth is almost equal in terms of Hispanics, blacks, and then lower American, Native American Indians, and Asiatic people. So the idea is not that racism can't go away, that systemic racism can't go away, but to underline the catastrophic effects and say, hey, let's develop a system that says, okay, we're going to ensure and protect those who have accrued their wealth, whether white, black, Hispanic, blue, Asian, brown, yellow, pink, orange, Jewish, Christian, Nazi, KKK, Black Panther, gold member of the Knights of Golden Dawn, whatever, whoever you are. Let's continue to form systematic infrastructures that protect the people's right to progress. This is where we are in our country. You see, so people that have wealth don't have to be afraid of it being taken away, and people who are attempting to gain wealth should not also have their rights or ability to pursue that wealth monopolized on. Those are the real issues. God bless the United States of America.
Until the Constitution is put back in place, nothing can be fixed because the Democrats and Republican parties divide this country, pushing racism. Racism is not trying to be fixed right now because of the party system. Until the Constitution is back in play, and but they've been attacking the Constitution since 1792.
He's
They have
right.
destroyed our Constitution. Our Constitution has been stomped by the Democrats and Republicans, and it has to be put back in play.
Country, can you tell me, country gentleman, can you tell me how it's not in play? Please explain, or give me something so I understand.
Say that again.
What do you mean by that it's put it back in play? Like, I know that there's the two-party system and they're going at it, but can you tell me what it means for the Constitution to be back in play, please?
You look at the laws that the federal government has caused to be passed. The problem today is that the federal government's at the top of the food chain, then the state, then the people. That's not the way this country was set up with a constitutional federal republic. The way it's set up is to be the people in charge, then the state, and then the federal government. And if you look at the laws, so many unconstitutional laws, and the way they try to drive a wedge between people that have different colored skin, when it's that's there's one race, the human race. There's a book called One Race, One Blood, put out in Kentucky at the Ark, that proves there's only one race. There's different cultures, but the Democratic and Republican Party have been brainwashing the people for so many hundreds of years and for so long that people don't realize that they can stand up and they have to stand up. The only way we can do that is to get an independent in office that's standing not a pledge to their party that is a corporation, but a pledge to the flag and the people of this country. And until that happens, it's not going to get fixed. But we can fix this if the people will stand up against this system that's destroying.
Come on, brother.
Okay, now I have a real question. Please don't laugh at it. What if the boycott to this tragic way of existing right now is simply to show them our voice, right? We've been convinced that voting is our voice. But if we were to not every fucking country that is out there right now arguing like we are, because we are not the only ones fighting the life of like government chilling and us living. How could you show your voice when the technology and every time every fucking time there is an election, there is fraud. Fraud here, fraud there. They did this, they oppressed, da 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 da. What if we really like, okay, a major election, nobody left their fucking house, nobody voted.
Facts.
Okay, we
We
cannot.
have to go back to the paper ballot. There, all this
Oh,
electronic
Poppy,
junk has got to be
listen to me,
gone
Poppy.
away with. The paper ballot has to come back into play, and the people have to stand up whenever
We're
they cheat
not.
you. We have to stand up against them.
How could they tell us that we voted that this person A won over B if nobody fucking voted for A or B? You understand? Like the
Right.
only way, like I know it sounds stupid. I don't know how many other people might believe or think the way I do because for centuries we've been doing this. How many times? Like right now and like what would that mean? What would it mean? How would it if no American went to go vote, they showed their voice in silence. How could they tell us A won over B? Because no one went to fucking vote. Like it would be
Well,
completely visible. The transparency of their cheat would be there.
Mel,
But no,
well, I appreciate that, hon, but here's the thing. There's always been zealots, and we can't stop them from voting. So, like, though all of us with sanity might sit out with you, because that is a good expression. That is a very wide margin. But due to
Yes.
the way the laws and everything structured, they would use that against us and our apathy against us, and then they would
our goal,
literally put in the worst people.
chicken, chicken. Our goal would be to convince the zealous, whoever that thinks this way is still right, and that their voice will be heard that way, to convince them and show them the truth that it's never been heard this way. Let's try this one way that's never been tried. Like
I
that's
wish no, I wish I could have that faith. But here's what I would say. Okay, I would say that what was it? 10 lepers came to Yeshua and got healed, and 9 went away. And like, I don't know what to do with a situation like that, right? Like, if you literally change somebody's life right before their very life and restructure them and rebuild them and give them freedom and hope and longevity, and they still walk away from you, I
Mm,
don't know what that is. You know what
mm,
I'm saying? So, like,
mm.
I understand what you're saying, but I in my heart, I just know that it's not plausible. And I love your hope and thought process on it. But if we put and invest our energy into that, it would be such a wasted venture that we would lose so much control that after that would become the change in slavery we so fear because they would have
Mm,
all aspects of control around us and authority. So I love what you're saying. And of course, I wish it could be that way. But I'm afraid we are a far broken system. And because of the
mm,
system, we have to learn to use it against
mm.
them the way they use it against us. And that is 100% with voting, but with voting with intent in localized elections, solely concentrating on those and not really worrying about the craziness because it's your local election. Your local sheriff can tell the FBI to get fucked. Did you know that? Because he has
Mm-hmm.
authority. Your
Mm-hmm.
governor can tell the CDC to get the fuck out of their state because he
Mm-hmm.
has the authority. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what we've seen the expression of out of Florida and out of Texas, and even, I dare say, somewhat out of Tennessee, though they're kind of piddling farting around. But nonetheless, it's there, it's possible and plausible, but only at using the system against them in a way that benefits the most local level possible, because that's your strength and foundation you stand on. And that's what I would say, Mel.
Powerful, man. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Yo, Mike, you got to interrupt, man. I think it's getting hot in here, man. The people are on fire. The people are on
What's funny
fire
is
today.
in about 15 minutes, I have to jump to a call with my Jamaican friend in Ghana, but continue.
I'm so impressed with everyone's opinion. I'm so impressed and I'm so humbled to hear so many intelligent, beautiful human beings express themselves so clearly. It's amazing.
The one thing on the Constitution,
I'm learning. I'm
um,
learning. I'm learning. I'm learning
well,
from everyone.
the thing that I find that if you look at the basis and look at it and read it with their eyes in the beginning and the principles they were trying to project over time, and like in the beginning, the representatives would go up, they would visit, they would do their job, then they'd come back home and do their job at home. And today the corruption, it's like layers. They've slowly layered where they alter the true foundation. So like they call them, the fundamental constitutional, whatever, they've got some title for it. And it's just the way you perceive it and look at it. And to live it in the true principles that it was based on with some of the errors that it had to live through, living those bases and sharing those is kind of like, everybody taking care of everybody else when need be. At the same time, leave me alone and let me have my peace. That's it.
I will say, touching right off of that, Webb, if you don't mind me doing that, I'm going to bounce off of that. And you can go back. And before this administration, I would have told you that Woodrow Wilson was the most evil fucking president we've ever had in American history, right? And due to that, it would lead me to the 16th and 17th Amendment. And that's right where you were touching on Web 3. Now, what happened with that? That destroyed an original check and balance. As a matter of fact, somebody was like, what aspect of the Constitution isn't being followed? Well, this is one of the originality. There was to be no direct taxation on the citizenry except during wartime. That is per our Constitution. The 16th Amendment eliminated that protection from the government and enabled them the power of the purse. Now, what did that mean? That meant through taxation, they could limit what came into your household so that you did not have a power as a subject and a citizen to enact localized solutions to a problem. So therefore, your codependency level skyrocketed because you needed federal dollars to get assistance in your state area. So with that, now the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment is actually paramount to understanding how we lost control of our Senate in the federal House. Now, what happened is we used to have direct control over who went to the Senate by way of our localized House and Senate representatives. Okay, they picked and assigned the person to go to the Senate federally to represent the state. What did that mean? That meant that if my House of Representative member Fred and my Senate member Bill, both of which whom I elected, picked Phil to go up there, and Phil was a fucking moron, I could call Fred and Bill and be like, hey, you vouch for this guy. Your job is no longer secure because you're a fucking idiot, obviously. So therefore, I need you to do something about this today. Okay. And then they make a phone call to Phil and they're like, Phil, we gave you this fucking job. We'll take it away, buddy. Don't fuck with us. And so Phil would bend. Now that is a direct, I touch my fucking senator connection that they stole from us by way of lying to us, saying that popular vote was quote unquote democracy. We had a democratic republic, meaning we had democratic structures of voting in our localized election through a republic built on our federal structure. And that is a very important differential and key. And people have dismissed and misaligned and misunderstood that for, God, the last 50 years, it has been lied to and propagated to a public, and they are so confused. Now, and quite frankly, I shouldn't know all this. I'm a 10th grade dropout. I smoke more pot than fucking Marley, and all I care about is my family and my chickens. And these fucking people that run our lives are idiots. I want you to know that fully from my heart.
Somebody give that brother some room.
I won't say as much next time.
Those were all facts.
Yes, I agree with you on those because, and actually too, what they did with the taxation one was to change what you do, your labor, the results from your labor being capital instead of it being, they turned it into income, which is a completely different thing. And it's just that corruption and the way they choose to corrupt it, the way they play the game. It's the system fundamentally at its root is not sick, but the branches and a lot of the stuff have, because most of the federal government today should not exist because they've been legislated into place by Congress, which they're really not part of the Constitution fundamentally. Most every agency, your energy, all the departments. And, before that started happening, which was, early 1920s, 30s, as those progressive changes occurred, it just, the characteristic of that belief, the altering of the way it was taught, and, then the changing of a lot of cultural fundamental values and all those things, stepping through all those places have gotten to where we are today. But the piece that we have to do is look back and say, this is what unites us. We know we have problems. let's do something about them, because it's like anybody says, I look at yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's not here. I don't know what to expect, so I have to live for right now. And that's the choice that I live. That's the reason why I live in the woods and fixing to have chickens. So
Everybody should have chickens. And Web3, what you were looking for as a descriptor is property. Your labor was your property before they changed it to income,
yes,
and they couldn't
yes,
re-tax you for that.
yes, I
Yes,
agree.
and they stole that from us too. And that's another foundation they stole from us. When the
Wow.
gentleman was speaking of they took our constitution, stole it, and used it against us, that's what he was referencing in those kinds of natures. He, many of the things, especially over the last, you have to look at it since, okay, Theodore Roosevelt was the last safe president we had, so to speak, until I know some people will hate it, Trump, but let's set that aside. After Theodore Roosevelt, what they did with him, by the way, he was a very good president. They took him and sent him out of town on an ambassadorship, right? And that is when they first started the infrastructure of building the things that would come later as the League of Nation Foundations that Woodrow Wilson tried to put us to. And Woodrow Wilson was also the person that got us back involved with the bank. And he destroyed our sovereignty in those two specific amendment ways. So those are things you have to look at and you have to go back to understand where we are today. Literally, that fuse was lit then for the explosion that's fixing to go off in our futures. So quite immediate futures comparison to historical standards. So everybody should get chickens. Chickens are very good.
And goats in the spring.
Goats in the spring. Oh, good God Almighty. Yeah, Theodore Roosevelt was pretty cool. Everyone wasn't bad and everyone wasn't good, but the people were good. And humanity is still existing as a result of its ability to adapt to different times of evolution or, translation, to say the least, because we're all, I believe the universe responds to us all equally. Yes.
Teddy's my favorite president ever. He's the coolest guy. We need another one.
So after him, you had a few who didn't want to hurt America necessarily, even if they thought good intentions, and they paved the road to hell. But it was very few. It was Kennedy, but that was through spite and a kind of a selfish reasoning behind it. Reagan, because he had a love of old nature, but they shot it out of him, so he quit. And then Trump, which has too much balls and too much arrogance to take it away from him. So we have to use these selfish traits that we have for the people that are presented to use as our battering rams. And that would be my advocacy for that nature.
You better believe it. It's either us or them, and we're the last of us. So, DeFi.
Indeed, we are.
What's up, Sandra? Yeah, hey Sandra. Hey, I was just saying to in response to the chicken whisperer is President Kennedy, keep in mind, he was some deal and some threat to the underlining hidden establishment in terms of
I'm terribly sorry, DeFi. I cut out for a minute and I caught half of that. Could you reiterate? I don't want to misunderstand.
Repeat that.
No. DeFi's out. Try it again.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I cut out there for a minute. Yeah, when he referenced President Kennedy, what I'm saying is he represented a non-intentional collateralized embodiment of peer-to-peer, personification. And he became an enemy, is what I'm saying, of the hidden established government because of the adoption of so many minorities. We got to remember, 70% of or more people Black people, Hispanic people endorsed, disenfranchised white people endorsed President Kennedy. So he was one of the greatest presidents as well, who inherited a lot of hate. It wasn't even his fault. A lot of the hate came from
who was endorsing him. Is what I'm saying.
I like you a lot, but I would push back a hair in the sense that surface level publicly, that was absolutely a reason to stir up people that again had hate in their heart to bolster back against him. But there was an interpersonal relationship uh, in the government that had went quite a bit back since his dad, since Prescott Bush, since those things. That was bad blood, extraordinarily bad blood. And if you look at it, Bush is involved. Oh, whatever you're smoking, pass it to me when you're done. I'm fixing to roll
Here,
it actually, so
here,
I'll pass
bro.
mine.
Here. Wait,
Yes, I heard
let's
that
take a break.
shit.
Let's take a break. Wait. Let's take a break for the.
Yep.
Pass it to me too, please. I would
God,
appreciate
that
some
would
as
be a
well.
point of technology. Yeah, that would be a point of technology I would enjoy if we could pass the joint through the
Yes, if
phone.
we
I
could
would
do
be for that.
this.
That just means
Now,
a hit of your own.
Now, let us finish. I agree with you after that. I forgot my point. Thank you.
That's all right. The weed came up and we all got thrown off, and it was fun.
That's where I'm looking at a heart. Amma, hola.
Amanda. It's Amanda.
I love, Amma means love. To love.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Hello. I am glad to be here. My Lord, the variety and the passion. I seen Chicken was in here. Chicken's got mad knowledge, mad jokes, cares a lot. So I'm like, I'm gonna pop in here and see what Chicken's up to, and then I'm seeing y'all. And thank you for sending me the mic, Melly. I was started following you guys just listening to you. I love the passion. That's what we need. It's what we
These
need
are
right now.
dope people. I can vouch for quite a bit of them. I've been in here for a while, and they all have a desired heart to find the solution for what they see around them, and that tying factor. When somebody was talking about a tying factor earlier, that's what I found to be the tying factor. Is we see what's around us burning, and we all desperately in our hearts want it not to, and that's a factor that
Good
all
deal.
gives us something to stand on.
Can that mean that we learn how to yield? Like, you have your opinion and your beliefs and your thoughts, right? And like how you grew up. But like, I have to respect that. And then we come together in yielding fashion to find the middle. Like, I think that's something that, I see so plainly even in traffic. Like, people don't yield. And pardon, but this is a very like it's more of an American trait. No matter what your background is, it's like an American trait. Like, not to yield so much, and it's good to, like, you avoid accidents. Like, I see the corner of my house. I live on a very busy uh corner where there's cars blow through the stop sign. We had to petition to get another to make it a four-way stop. My neighbor's front door wall got hit by a car because like it just after that is when we got the thing. But yielding, like, people are like, no, it's my turn, he has to stop. I'm gonna continue, like, it's my turn. So I really like when you understand that yielding just like will save a life, like your own life, someone else's, like, it's a good thing. It's good. That's all.
Can I add a little story to that? I relocated to a little small town in Arkansas, southern Arkansas. And the one thing that I was amazed with is the main road that runs through town is, a 5 lane, center turn type thing. And there's all these little businesses, and people will literally stop to allow people in the middle lane to turn into the local businesses. I've had people stop at intersections turning against traffic, and they just stop and they blink their lights and say, go on. And it's where I used to live, it wasn't like that because it was more, more metropolitan, more a lot of people going and all focused. We got to get there. We got to get there. And kind of like here, you still have a few that, will make mistakes or cut you off or do whatever. But the experience of those that yield, it's like, wow. And, it's kind of like what goes around, you do it again, pass it on.
Yes. It's funny. I learned this because I grew up in a little town in Colombia, and coming down to the city, like most of the cities over there, like in Europe, have roundabouts, and you learn this. You learn the yield, and it just makes for a more harmonious existence. But
Yep. Good fluid flow. Good fluid flow.
Amanda, what you
Oh
got?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my lord, being on a military base with roundabouts when you've got children from 18 to 50 that want to drive their brand new cars that they think they have so much money for, and then they can end up getting them taken out. Yeah, you learn real quick to yield on roundabouts. But no, before that, I was just going to say, a big thing is, and I had no idea what y'all were talking about. I hopped in here because I seen chicken in here. And one of the things is that I'm trying to do, and I've actually heard it from chicken, is because I've tried to reach people through my middle ground. Because the way I always tell people, I don't check boxes. I'm not one of those that fits perfectly in any direction that people want to put you in a category in every sense of life. And I think if we at times go outside of our comfort zone and say, say if you drop it into a room that is just running hot, I'm sorry, my cat's a little peeved right now. If you drop into a room and they're all fire heavy, going against everything that you believe in, if you come up and bring up basic humanity things, take away everything that the politics, the wealthy, all these factors that they want us to divide, find things that that will unite us, because it really is not about political sides. It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about religion. It is about humanity. And in humanity, we find unity. And that is what we need to find and draw on for one another, because this isn't independent national crises that we're having going on. This is a global thing. This is happening everywhere. The more people that we get to know, the more that we, help break language
Wow.
barriers.
Wow.
I know I haven't even smoked yet. I'm getting ready to. You should hear my brain on weed. No, I'm not. Like in a way, I compare it to Twitter Spaces. I have been through washers and dryers. I can't say wash right. I'm sorry. You get tumbled through pardon my language, you get tumbled through all the bullshit, right? You find like-minded people. So you go from going to visiting umpteen Twitter Spaces to narrowing down, and then you're weeding out the games and the drama and all of that. At the end of it, you'll find your people, and you'll find them uniting, and you'll find the groups growing. And that's how we plan globally to unite, to stand up, to be able to survive. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be about surviving. It's not going to be about who won. It's not going to be about what color you are on the political scale, what color your skin is, what color your chakras are. I don't give a shit. We're all human. We all need to stick together and rise above. So, yeah. Thank you guys
Hey
for
guys,
welcoming me
listen,
here.
I'm gonna have. Oh, yeah, Amanda's great, man. She's a real laid back person who just wants the world to be better too. And she smokes weed, which always is easier to hang out with people that smoke weed than don't. That's just my opinion. No offense to you non-smokers. Y'all ain't like weird or nothing. It's just I feel like y'all are missing out. We
No,
can't get on that same level.
that is the truth. The spirit of the plants live with us, and they help us, and they help us literally like understand things that we're supposed to.
That's truly the greatest unifier, if you ever ask me. But I'm gonna dip out. I'm gonna be back in spaces later. Maybe I'll catch y'all. I follow quite a bit of y'all, so we can kick it later. It was good. High five to everybody in the room, and I hope everybody has a blessed day. Amanda, I'm sure I'll see you later in one of our rooms where we'll kick it. Tell everybody I'll
Most
be back in a bit.
definitely. All right, honey. Much
Okay.
love.
It's fun. That's fun. Amanda, what time is it?
It is 12:06, right after noon, where I'm at.
Okay, you're in the middle.
Yeah. It's kind of funny when whoever brought up Iowa. Yeah. I live in Iowa. I don't like to brag about it. It's believe me, it's not a state to brag about, but I'm like, oh my God, did somebody just seriously? It's like when you hear your state on TV and you're like, who in the hell would mention Iowa? Like, and then I'm like, oh my God, it's associated with something. Holy hell.
It's at the top next to Illinois. Is that right? Or is it like in the middle by Dakota?
No, I'm basically like Minnesota is right above us. Kansas right below. So then on the side we've got Nebraska and Illinois.
Okay. Yeah, Illinois.
So just kind of surround, right in the middle.
Down left to Illinois, right? You're down left?
I think it's little northwest-ish. Oh shit. I don't know. I'm sorry. My brain is dead, guys. I'm sorry.
It is.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Be satisfied. Be satisfied.
Yeah, it's west. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what. I've just had my brain in so many places, and it just. I don't normally rattle off what I did as well without weed, so I'm kind of shocked that happened. Pretty proud of myself. Not gonna lie, y'all are great people to bring that out. So thank you.
Is it Plains? It's Plains there. I've been to Des Moines. Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa. There.
Yeah, Des Moines is our capital. Yep.
That's right next to Illinois, right? Like you cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a couple hours from Illinois.
That's flat.
A few hours from. It's very flat. Very flat. Very boring.
Remember corn.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of corn, cows. Yeah, you know.
The smell. And the smells of farms. I miss that actually.
Yeah, that's what I love is when I lived in southern Iowa. I was about an hour from the Missouri border, maybe even a little less. The land it starts to get a lot prettier down there too. It starts to get more hills and more woods. But when you've been in the rural areas and you've lived there, me and my kids, one of their favorite memories growing up is we would gravel travel. We'd hop in my truck and crank the music up, go hit the gravel roads, be out, and there's nothing like when you've grown up in that small town rural, when you smell that farm smell. It's just that's the only thing I can say about Iowa is it makes you feel the oneness in a way of that.
Yeah, I hear you. I grew up with the milk being brought to our house in a tin can. And the lady that cooked would make butter from the boiled milk. It's called
that is so awesome.
bread. It's called nata, Nata. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Where are you from, honey?
I'm American born, and I was a kid when my family went back to Colombia. So
that's the accent that you have in them.
I grew up in Colombia, so I was they took me over there. I'm like the reverse migration, which is funny. It makes me
right. Yeah, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
And then I came back to the States, and it's like, yeah. And I've been here, and I've been living in California for like 10 years. But I'm going to Tennessee. I'm going back to Tennessee. My family, I grew up going to Tennessee.
Nice. Yeah. I'm hoping to get south somewhere. I'm looking at maybe Florida or.
I don't know. It's Florida. I mean, south, like the south, or just south of.
I'm not the south. My health. I need number one, legalized weed. Number two, better weather. So.
You mean warmer weather? What you need?
Yes. Winters.
Yes.
Take a toll on me now. A lot worse than they used to. So, it leaves me pretty much where I'm indoors most of it. So I just need to be somewhere that is not cold.
Yeah, the tropical heat of Miami, Florida is good.
And I'm a Pisces, so near a body of water is always great.
Do you have a pool jacuzzi?
What's that?
Do you have like a pool or a jacuzzi?
No. No.
Damn, imagine like being a fish and like the only pond that you have is your bathtub.
Were you
Imagine if you don't have a bathtub and you only have a shower. Where do you fish then?
Oh fuck, that's even worse.
Yep. I mean, unless you want to go sewer fishing with a lot of string, there's not much water.
You must be ready to get the fuck out of there already.
Can you tell? I tell everybody, and I'm sorry, I ramble when I meet new people because I really don't I'm not able to get out much until I get a car. I have to rely on a wheelchair at times. So, anyways, onward and forward with that. Yeah, I was born here, but you would never know it. I don't talk like an Iowan. I don't act like one. And every time I have left Iowa to move away, something has happened in my family that has brought me back. And now my boys are 22 and they have very good lives, leading good lives, I should say, as good men. And
Congrats.
Thank you. And I don't have any other close family relations. So I now know that when I leave Iowa, it will be for the last time because there will be nothing to bring me back. So unless one of my kids were to, knock on wood, get sick, but one of them's not even in Iowa. So yeah, I've been itching to get out. I've been out and I've come back, been out and come back, and I have been itching to get out for good. It's kind of a running theme. If you ever see me in a room, usually I'll talk about that.
Nah, that's cool. Iowa's cool. We used to have this corn-fed boy from Iowa whenever I was in high school. We used to call him Iowa. This dude was massive. It was like, oh yeah, dude, we used to freaking just chunk hay bales back in the. I was like, God damn, boy.
Yeah, we make good football players in Iowa.
Yeah, freaking. He was like
A
him and I
lot.
were like this. Yeah. Him and I were pretty. I'm just a freak, but he was just freaking huge. He was a big boy.
Yeah,
I treat him differently up
it's
there.
kind of nice because they do get a lot of them drafted, out of especially University of Iowa, some out of Iowa State, but from the Hawkeyes, we've got a pretty good record of, football players getting drafted. So, but yeah, that's what they do. They'll do football practice, come back, work on the farm, unless they're city boys. If they're city football boys, well, we know all about that. That ain't no baling hay.
Yeah, we know that. So what's good, everybody? How's everybody doing? It's been a minute.
We're blessed. We're blessed. Everyone here is blessed. The syndicate is good. Dan it's kind of boring because Dan hasn't said one word, but I understand I reserve his right to be silent. So
I heard it. He had his card punched and he hadn't got a new card.
No, Dan's gonna have to start charging y'all for those free advertisements that he's been putting out every day.
Oh yes.
On the Reggie, always. Yo, where's Mike at? Freaking.
He's on the phone.
Pondering in the wind.
He's on a phone call, I think. He said something about that a little bit ago. So
yeah, he was gonna hang up.
Nah, he hit that laugh button. He's bullshitting. He's just listening. He's just listening.
He's watching Battlestar Galactica with his wife. So
He's like, I'm gonna let these motherfuckers distract themselves while I fucking one up one of them.
Oh yeah. I sent the picture.
All right, the captions. He says the captions are on. He's on the call, so he can read everything.
And there goes our proof that Twitter Spaces can be self-governed in order and decorum better than the actual House of the United States. Wow.
So funny.
That was very scary, very profound, and very funny all in one.
Definitely scary. Definitely
Yes.
scary.
Definitely. We could mess with those captions and just all start going.
Oh my god, the captions grab like they give so much
Y'all must be cool people because I'm not usually this bubbling and talkative. Like I'll ramble because my brain rambles, but y'all bring out a really good energy in me. So thank you. I've had a really bad day yesterday, and y'all just made my day great. By the way, I'm following y'all.
You deserve the best. You deserve the best, and everyone, just like every other person in this room, but you especially deserve the best. We're gonna give you a heart right now. Everybody, let's give her a heart right now. Everyone, let's just show some love. There we go.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
You go for it. You go for it.
I got it.
Welcome, Amanda.
I found me a new group of peeps. That's what's going on here, man.
Yeah, once you see the freaking the unicorn up there, once you see his ass in the freaking host spot, you can just guarantee that someone's gonna be in here. So you're good. You're good.
Follow the path of the unicorn. So y'all got plans for the long weekend?
No plans. I'm working. I'm on call this weekend, so I gotta work. Oh shit! I just seen that there's a 1980s Lamborghini driving next to me. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Reminded me of like some like 70s, 80s, like Miami Vice. Like if your chest hair ain't showing, then you ain't going type vibes, you know.
What a great spaces today. Yo, Mike, this is why I don't speak that much, man. This is why I don't speak that much. This is why you have to come find me, man. I get shit popping, Mike.
Miguel,
What's going on? It's on the phone with Ghana. You know, it's interesting. I was talking. We're having a discussion on buying technology to for one of the team members, and the owner of the company was like, you know, if I'm already paying you this per month, and you're telling me that you need something that costs this per month, that's going to make you more effective, that means that as I'm paying you this per month, you're actually able to do so much more. So don't be afraid to tell me what you need to make my investment in you more profitable. I would love to know how I could make my investment in you more profitable. And that means a heavier hammer. Send me the link. In fact, make a list. So, yeah, that was the conversation I just got off.
Great, man. Great. That's a good. I think Web3 agrees that it's great as well.
That's see, I wonder why more people don't
Oh, it's
don't
because
treat
he's
like
from
things like
Ghana.
that. It's
That's why.
weird.
He's from Ghana. I remember
Oh,
an African
okay.
guy
He's
from
from
Kenya
Ghana.
told me this. He's like, you know what's funny, you Americans? You Americans will buy a piece of software from $100,000 and pay the person using it $50 an hour. You guys are very funny.
That's funny. You're like, I'm the funny one. I'm trying to make it easier for you, bro. And you're just you don't want to tell you don't want to let me in. Just let me in, bro. Just let me in.
Yeah, the Ghanaian way of doing business is a bit different. It's refreshing.
So what is like? What is that process? Let me ask you, Mike. What is that process like? If you
Um,
don't mind sharing. If you
yeah.
don't mind
So
sharing.
so when you say process, like what aspect?
When in terms of like the delegation process of voting governance of Guyanese voting governance.
Sorry.
If I have an idea, let me
Yes.
if I may,
Yes. Okay.
if I have an idea and it's interesting and it I believe it's interesting and it could potentially be something resourceful. How do I
Yes.
present that to my peers? What is that?
Well, whether you're with friends or enemies, from an investment perspective, something already generating money is always going to be attractive than something that's not currently generating money.
I see.
Right? So that's kind of the cross-cultural sieve that I've seen. And they don't care sometimes if you're making $1 a day or 50 cents a day, just show me something. Is there
Okay.
anyone who else cares about this than me? No? Just you?
Nice.
You know?
Nice.
Show me someone who cares about what you're doing.
That's freaking nice, man.
They would call it an unpaid use case, right? Right
Right.
now, this is an unpaid use case that we're developing, and we hope to identify profitable unit cases in the future. But right now, we're working on an unprofitable use case because we believe it's worth it for XYZ reasons.
Mm. Did anyone watch Serena Williams perform last night?
I heard about it. What happened?
She played her last and final
Oh,
tennis
get out.
match. Yep.
Wow.
She lost last night to Tommy. This girl, her name's Tommy. I forgot what country she's from, but man, is she a hell of a stud.
Hey, Ken, I can. How's it going?
Bro, that
Well,
just tells
man, just watching your space, incredible space, man. You see, like, I have to do this thing. I can, like, make my brain go fast or just, like, try to speak so perfectly so I could, like, harmonize with everyone you say. So you see, like it's more for me. It's like I just want to make my fucking brain go fast, like and say, like like tennis, Lucy, like those guys that jump and put the racket behind their back and
You
just
know what's funny?
jump.
I actually have to make another call now. When I'm on Spaces, I can actually hear both conversations at the same time, which is an interesting experiment to try to do two calls where the only audio source is playing both
Yeah,
tracks at
watch
the
your
same
mouth.
time. Yeah. So I'm going to call Ghana back. And this was interesting. I'm glad we're still friends, or at least some of us are. Well, here's the thing. I will say this. If I want to experiment with anything, is I want to see if people who disagree politically can collaborate economically. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's the trick. That's how you know who really has
Uh-huh.
who really has a heart and who really has a hook. Two different
That's it.
things.
Right? Because I don't care if everyone votes differently. I could give a shit. I would argue that nomination is the
Yeah.
only voting.
Yeah, for
Right?
sure.
If you're
For
not a
sure.
part of nominating people, you're actually not participating shit. But that's a different story.
Facts.
Right?
Facts.
That's a different story. But it's like the veil of democracy is hidden behind nomination. And so I want to see if people who would otherwise hate each other if they talked about politics and or religion can still get together and do something economically worthwhile. Because that's a better use case of diversity than anything. But I don't want to do this like fake diversity thing where we're trying to make points on a stupid scoreboard that's not going to lead us anywhere.
That's not gonna
Right?
fix anything.
Well, the thing is, like, I told somebody, if someone gives me money because I'm Guyanese and because I'm Guyanese only, I'm a traitor to my race. Go ahead.
Oh, so like certain groups, I never talk about my actual political beliefs deep enough for anybody to, if they assume where I'm at, they're going to be mistaken because I can tell you right now the groups that the spaces I'm normally in, would probably lose their shit if they knew a couple of things that I would disagree with them on. So I keep it very much just, I remain that way so I can keep it neutral to get past that. I want everybody to see me for me. I want them to see my beliefs, my opinions, my whatever I may have to offer in this grand scheme of things as a help towards solution. Because literally, I have been so tired since the time I was able to vote that I've had to choose based on red or blue. I watched my mom and dad fight because my mom did not like the way my dad voted. They disagreed politically. And he would vote the way she wanted because back then you walked into the booth and you did the little paper thing, right? So I guess with me never falling on either side far on the spectrum of politics, what people don't realize is there's so much more in common than what they would think. And that's how it's not that I'm ashamed of what I believe in. It's not that I am afraid to share what I believe in. There's no point to putting a party on it. There's no point to bring up the hot spots of abortion, LGBTQ, all of these things that, yes, they are important, but for an economic solution, for a humanitarian solution, we need to look past that. Does that make sense? That's why I kind of just keep my beliefs out there, but not deep enough to where somebody's going to judge me because I do feel like I have something to offer. I can see both sides.
Malcolm X said that in one of his last speeches, where he's like, I am not talking to you today as a Muslim man, because if I spoke to you as a Muslim and you heard me as a Christian, we'd argue forever. I'm not talking to you today as a Muslim. I'm talking to you today as a XYZ. Does that make sense? And he made that distinction from the jump.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Wow. Great
Yeah,
news.
if you look at Ballot or the Bullet, you'll see the hardest speech you'll ever heard in your entire life. And they shot him I think maybe a month later. So it's one of his last speeches. But yeah, Ballot or the Bullet. He found out that the second was more preferable to his enemies. It's a dark world out there.
Gotta stay strapped.
And even then, right? I saw a rapper who did you see the rapper who had his boy shot in the car when they were trying to go after him? Yeah, man.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah. And he's like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, imagine how bad that is, right? Where you rap about this, that, and the other, and you're riding in a car with your friend, and your friend gets hit.
That's
It's
why
rough.
you just agree with everybody and just keep to yourself and just be like in your head, just be like, this motherfucker's a dumbass. I'm gonna just nod my head and agree with this bastard and make him think that he's swaying me one way or the other.
There is a
He's
way to
still
be with.
going. He's still fucking going. What an idiot. Damn, he really thinks that he can change my decisions and my choices. And let's see how much he can go. Oh, okay, cool, man. Man, awesome.
There is a way for us to be productive with people who disagree with us or even hate us because of our positions.
Yeah, there is.
Bingo, bingo, bingo.
It's called respect.
Exactly.
And that's that is the basis. So you can attract funding. So you think you can attract funding? That was the basis of the President Kennedy statement. That was my basis, right?
I think I was still in listener when you were talking about that, but I was over here going, yep. He knows his shit. Yep.
Like I'm like of my parents are Guyanese. The foreign superpowers fought over Guyana such that everyone had to leave Guyana, right, in the 70s. And now I'm in Canada. Technically, you would say I was born in Canada. My parents are Guyanese. And I'm a product of two, not political systems, but countries with opposing political systems fighting over place. My wife, Allie, she's only here because they firebombed Jamaican grocery stores in Jamaica.
Lit everything we owned on fire.
Right.
The only reason my mom made it out is because she lived in the slave quarters behind a Massa's house.
So it's like her and I are both product of not political systems, but national systems warring with each other and then blaming certain people such that people have to leave. And, it sets back the country sometimes hundreds of years to have that brain drain. But, it's why I'm never too rah-rah for this or rah-rah for that. Because, the decisions we have are based on a McDonald's menu that has been presented to us, not something that we created ourselves.
Isn't that weird? How life is the same way as like a manufacturing facility, for instance. Like we could have all these different aspects and all these different cultures that influence us and all these different things that influence our everyday lives. And it comes from all different places. And same thing with some of the vehicles and some of the homes and stuff like that we have nowadays. Everything is manufactured in other places, and they're all just assembled in one spot. You know what I mean? So for you, Mike, your parents are from Guyana, and your roots are there, but you were assembled in Canada. You know what I mean? That's where you started to take on a persona of who you are and what you're going to be and all that stuff, because that's where you were assembled and that's where you were put together, regardless of the fact that you have roots and different parts and pieces of you for all over the world. So it's just
Mm.
a little interesting thing to think about.
Hmm. Well, this has been absolutely beneficial to everyone here. As you can see, they're dropping off like flies, Mike. I guess I'll be the next one to take this jump. I'm so grateful to have a few to be sitting here orbiting Earth and have such a insignificant position of reality. I'm just extremely blessed, and I hope that everyone here is experiencing some level of countenance in their life and in their future. I appreciate you guys. The Syndicate with the unicorn for 2 minutes. I'm out.
Nice to meet you. Have a good day, honey.
Nice to meet you guys. All right, talk to you guys
Later,
soon,
bro.
Mike.
Later,
See
bro.
you. See you later, Dan. See you later.
Oh,
Web3. Thank you.
that's DeFi.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Hey,
guys. Thank
DeFi,
you.
meet
See
the
you
brains
later,
of the
Amanda.
operation.
hi, D5.
Hey, hey there. How you doing?
Really, I was just asking who was talking about. I was like, it's
Yeah,
D5.
because she came in she just woke up.
I just woke up. Shut up. Don't tell anybody. Shut up.
Oh no, Mike had to come get me out. He had to come find me. This past couple of weeks have been really busy. I'm actually trying my hardest to develop a few things that I don't want to disclose yet. That he and I were kind of talking about and discussing. So I'm
Yeah,
just kind
do
of
you have my
preparing.
number?
Oh, I don't. I'll just
Oh.
DM you. I'll DM you mine.
Yeah. All right.
I'll
So
DM you mine.
I'll do a shout
Yeah.
over WhatsApp. Yeah, sounds good. All right,
I
guys.
just
Yeah, go ahead.
want
Go ahead.
to. I just want to wish
Go
you
ahead.
the best in your endeavors, whatever you've got going on. Bright things are ahead of you, love. Keep going. Keep it going.
Thank you, blessed.
I
That's blessed.
sense
That's blessed. That's blessed. Thank you, blessed.
very much. I sense passion in you. You're going places. So much love.
Amanda, I don't think I've ever heard your voice before. Hi, how's it going?
Hi. Yeah, I know. I usually when I went through a process where I kind of took the mic a little bit too much because oh my god, Twitter Spaces had me bouncing
all done that.
around like
Yeah.
I'm like I'm done with that and I just hopped in here and I'm like y'all are fucking awesome but yeah, usually I've been listening a lot more lately than as opposed to taking the mic because I've just been trying to kind of absorb, with everything going on. Sometimes when I'm on a speaker, I want to because the way my brain injury I had, if there's too many people that talk before me, it gets really balled up in my head. So then I'm trying to spit everything else out really fast. So when I'm speaker, I'm trying to absorb everything, and I can respond. Whereas when I'm even if I have my mic muted, like here, I'll have it muted. Y'all don't care. Some groups are like, well, why aren't you talking? Because I sometimes I need to absorb. So yeah, you don't hear my voice too often, unless I'm, I don't know. There's probably gonna be a recording floating around because I ripped somebody a new one last night because they brought my kids up. So yeah, usually I'm pretty fun, I think. But nice to formally meet you, and here's my voice.
Received. Nice to meet
Here's
you
my
as
voice.
well. Nice to
Yes,
meet
you
you.
too, honey.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you
luck,
for the
and I hope to see
impartation.
you soon.
Blessings. Blessings. Thank you. All right, guys, I gotta go. Talk to you later.
Have a good weekend. Another reason I don't take the mic a lot is because I talk too much, y'all.
It's I mean, what can I say? I'm the host of this thing. So there's part of me who wants to express something too. Right? So I think we are expressive beings, right? And because we're expressive beings, we want to interact with people because of biophilia. Living organisms naturally are attracted to other living organisms, maybe because of symbiosis or parasitism or all of the other evolutionary ecological symbiosis, right? And so I think it's natural for us to want to cohabitate with other people. And that's why we call this the Syndicate, together alone. Have you ever wanted to be with other people but just hated being with other people? Well, that's why we created Together Alone. How might we be together but not with other people? Together alone. Let's get together separately.
All right, can I say something from the heart right now?
Sure.
Because that just hit me deep, and I finally got to hit this blunt that I've been working on for about 30 minutes because I shake. So I'm gonna be a little vulnerable for a minute. That hits really deep. With my situation, I didn't think I would get my driver's license again, which I did, but I don't have a car. And I get around my apartment, okay, walking around, but I can't go too far without a wheelchair because my legs will give out. Right now where I'm living at, I have absolutely no one. So I get out to go to doctor's appointments, and that's about it. It's pretty much me and my cat, and my neighbor will come and see me at least once a day with her dogs. But my kids are south of me. My mom and my sister are no longer in my life. So I am alone all of the time. And I love music. I love to write. I'm a very, that kind of oriented person, but I'm a big thinker too. And it kind of gets me into trouble because I find myself in groups where I'll start talking too much and people are like, you need to shut up. Or they're like, you need to stop sharing, or you need to let other people talk. But I love that you said that because I never knew that behind the Syndicate. Sorry. And that hit really hard because, I will say just for meeting you guys this soon, it's probably pretty obvious. I'm not really open about where I am with everything, only what's necessary in a conversation for the exact reasons that you guys worded better than me. And that I appreciate right there because a lot of people could have judged that like I was trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not. And the fact that you guys took that the exact way I meant it speaks volumes. And I can tell you guys, out of everybody I have come across, and I don't even care who the fuck is listening to this, out of everybody I've come across since I've been in Twitter Spaces, I have never had that level of comfort because the way that was worded could have very easily, because you heard me catch up behind it where I said just kind of keeping it to myself, like I'm not trying to pretend, that's what people would think because they're paranoid about what's going on. Y'all got it, that it's better to remain to yourself on certain things. You learn more, you offer more. People get to understand you and they get to understand your viewpoints. And they may think that you're one of quote unquote them, if that's what they want to call it, for 5 minutes. But guess what? When they're done with that conversation with you for hours and they find out, hey, I didn't start on the same side as you. Look at where we're at now. That's profound. And that's what I keep trying to do. And I'm really sorry I babbled. When I get amongst people that smoke, I smoke a little. I haven't smoked yet today, so I'm really sorry. My first time in a space. This is kind of embarrassing.
That's the realest talk is when you you get high, you let loose, and you tell us what you're feeling. I love it.
Shit, thank you. I love having that female voice kick in because I'm like sitting here looking at like, oh my god, I'm looking like this babbling fucking high chick. It's just really deep, to find people like y'all that got that like instantly, and that's hard to find anywhere. And it amazes me what we can do now with technology. And if anything can give us hope, even if we have 2 to 3 people around us that think like us, that's we're better off than where we were 3 people before that. It grows. That's that symbiotic thing.
The beauty of technology, all the weirdos can find each other now.
Well, the other thing too is like we don't need 100 people in this room.
It's true. I don't need 100 friends. Fuck everybody. Like,
Yeah.
let's just keep the
Right?
syndicate.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we
There-
don't need a lot of people.
I'm like, why are people? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you just
mean,
need one mic.
I'm not gonna lie.
Because Mike has like a million friends, so we could just, you know, go pick on his.
Yo,
his friends.
speaking, I want to ask Mr. Raj about this. So you were the only person who took me up on reading "Pitch Anything" by Oren Clough.
Wait, I'm the only one out of everybody that you told to read that fucking book?
Yeah, you're the only one who actually is reading it.
Yo, that book is fucking good. That book is so good. That book. Oh, I'm just now getting out of. I'm getting into. Like, just got out of framing, and like going into like pricing and stuff like that. So, trying to learn how to like prize and do certain things like that, and like make your time like. Oh, it's a lot. I gotta consume it a little bit more before I could talk about it. I'm gonna have to listen to it like another two times, all the way through again. But it's fucking
Oh,
good,
so,
dude.
but
I'm
isn't the
surprised that
structure of the
nobody
way
else
he
has
did,
listened to that book.
dude, the way he structured that book, where he goes from story to theory, from story to theory, and all the stories line up, it's genius. The structure of that book is just as good as the content.
Well, yeah, and he keeps you engaged the entire time. Every time that he feels like, because he's narrating the book. Like, well, I guess if you can
Oh,
consider it a
did he narrate
narration,
his
he's
own book?
writing it in his voice. No, I
Oh,
don't think he
nice.
did. But what I'm saying is, like, when he
Okay.
wrote the book, yeah, when he wrote the book, like, I feel like he wrote it in his point of view. So when you're reading it as if he's narrating it to you to keep you engaged. If that makes sense.
I love it. I got to read that book again. But you know what, guys? I do have to jump off to this Ghana call. But we'll talk soon. Amanda, welcome. You're always
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you for welcoming me. It's nice to meet
Yeah, of
y'all.
course. All right, guys. You take care.
Yeah, nice meeting you as well. Have a good one, guys. Good talking to you all again. Later.
See ya.
Mm.